What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope y'all have had a great Saturday, a great start to your weekend. It's been phenomenal weather across the eastern U.S., except if you're in Florida. And you in Florida are actually getting a lot of wet weather from what could potentially be Tropical Storm Nicholas here in the coming days and eventually affecting Texas. And that is what we're going to talk about a lot in this video. You guys could get some nasty weather here in the coming days across the western Gulf of Mexico. We're going to talk about this system right here. We're also going to talk about this spin, which is an upper level low that could potentially bring some tropical impacts to the southeast, maybe mid-Atlantic, maybe even the northeast as we get into late this coming week into next weekend. We also have a couple systems to talk about in this video also. We're not going to talk about this one much. There's another tropical wave coming off North Africa that has the chance to make the long haul across the main development region and maybe on down the road, like 7 to 10 days might become a threatening scenario as it gets into the tropical Atlantic. But all that kind of stuff, we're just not sure, but we're going to talk about the potential. We're going to go over to model guidance, talk about the factors in place that could promote strengthening, that could limit strengthening, and just some steering currents and things like that. So we're going to get a little bit deeper. Stay with me. We're going to get pretty detailed in this video. It's going to be a longer video. So thank you all for the amazing support. Like I said, I hope you all have had a great day. If you guys have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'm a storm chaser also, so I don't just talk weather. I try to get out there in the action too. So hit the subscribe button, like the video. Promise you guys my setup will get much better in the future. And thank y'all for the amazing support. So let's get going here. So the National Hurricane Center, per the 2 p.m. update, by the time some of you guys watch this, it'll be the 8 p.m. update, maybe even sometime overnight. So some of this might get updated, but I don't think we're going to see a named storm or anything in the next update. So we're going to talk a lot about this one. This has an 80% chance to develop here in the western Gulf of Mexico and give a lot, potentially flooding rains to Texas, Louisiana. Does it have a chance to become maybe a high-end scenario where it makes it to a Category 1 hurricane or something? You can't take that out of the equation because you can't trust the Gulf of Mexico. But we're going to talk about the latest on that. And check it out here. We've been talking about this for a couple days. Now there is an area of interest, 20% chance to develop in the next 5 days. And I've mentioned this in a few videos. And this is the disturbance that could potentially deliver some, wet weather, maybe a tropical system as we get into late this coming week into this coming weekend. That really will end our streak of really nice weekend days that we've been spoiled with here in the eastern U.S. Then you got this system, which even if it does develop, I really don't think it's going to do anything. I think it'll fizzle out because it's developing a little bit too north of latitude here, so it interact with some colder waters and eventually dissipate. But this one right here, 20% chance to develop in the next 5 days. This is the one that has that chance to make the long trek across the tropical Atlantic, and we're going to talk about that too. But for you guys in Texas, Louisiana, I know you're probably starting to see some things go on social media about the potential for a tropical system. So we're really going to talk about that one first and go to each other system and break that down too. So here we go. So this is the system right here that has the potential to develop. It's just basically a bunch of unorganized vortices or convection, basically flying around here. The actual area, if there's a center of this, it's still trying to get over water. So this is really going to try to develop here in the next 24 to 48 hours. But right now, it's not developed. It's just a tropical wave. But this energy is going to get out into the Bay of Campeche. There's very warm waters and start to develop. So right now, it's just an invest. It's 94L. And check it out here. So all the spaghetti plots here have this now really wanting to stay into the western Gulf of Mexico. This one model still keeps it going into Mexico, and that is still a possibility. But a lot of them have it riding up and really just riding the coastal areas of Texas and bringing a ton of rain with it, several inches of rain. It could be possible here. If this even doesn't develop into a full-blown strong tropical storm or hurricane, this is going to be impactful for you guys in Texas and potentially Louisiana, and then even well inland to Arkansas. As far as the strength of the storm right now, the latest 18Z intensity guidance, a lot of members now have this making it to tropical storm, what would be Nicholas, the next named storm. So the guidance is definitely upticking as far as there being a more higher chance of this actually developing into a tropical storm, a named storm. So we look at the GFS here, And looking forward here, and let me try to get this looped here. All right, here we go. So looking forward here, this is the energy you watch right here. Don't pay attention to this because you're going to see a system pop up over here. We're going to talk about that too here later in the video. But going forward here, you see the L pop up here. Moving forward, we're getting into around 2 p.m. afternoon hours of Monday. See the low pressure popping up here into the western Gulf of Mexico. There is some extremely warm waters right here. I'll show you that in here in a second. And it has this developing into an all-out tropical storm, deepening big time on the latest GFS to a strong tropical storm, maybe a low-end hurricane, Category 1 hurricane. But this really doesn't make landfall until about it gets to the Texas-Louisiana border. But at the same time, it's potentially delivering a lot of moisture. We really won't know until this thing develops if this is going to have more moisture on the right or on the right side or left side. But I'm betting there'll be a lot more moisture on the east side, which could be better news if it kind of stays a little bit further out to sea for you guys in Texas. The reason I think the more moisture will be on the east side is because you have a lot of dry air up here, and I think that's going to, in a way, just basically kill a lot of the precipitation on the north and northwest side of the storm. But has a chance to be our next named storm and be another landfalling tropical storm. We've had quite a few this year. I guess that's better than having landfalling hurricanes, but it makes landfall and delivers a lot of rain. You look at the latest European model, and it shows a similar scenario. Here it goes, develops this tropical energy right here, and but definitely has it making landfall a little bit more southwest, even more southwest than Houston. Gets in and delivers a slug of moisture into Texas. And one thing you worry about, the steering currents are not. The steering currents in place do not promote a fast-moving system. There's basically it's kind of trapped in some weak ridging. There's a trough on top of it, and it's just not going to move much. So that's why we worry. But the Euro, I think, here does a good job of showing most of the moisture from the center to the east side of the storm to southeast side of the storm. That's because there's a deeper moisture plume right here. So that might be good news if the storm can stay more out into the Gulf of Mexico. But this gets going here. And what it does once it gets inland is still a question mark, but this really could deliver a lot of rain potential for areas of the Gulf states as we get into later this week. Well, into this week until later into this week. So you look at other model guidances. I got so many tabs up here, I don't even know what to click. The Canadian model doesn't really develop it, but it does throw some moisture into Texas. So not much to look at there. The Icon has a bunch of moisture showing up here. You speed this up a little bit right here. Sorry guys, my daughter busted in here complaining about the cat messing with her birthday balloon, so I had to handle that real quick. So if you see a cat flash around my background, the cat's in here with me. So going forward, you look at the Icon, back to the weather here, but look at the Icon. It does develop this into a system, and I think the Icon does a very good job of showing most of the moisture on the east side of the storm also, and makes landfall kind of between the GFS and the European. So the Icon definitely develops something there. What you want to watch out for here is when this is in the Gulf of Mexico, the western Gulf of Mexico, there's a nice outflow here. So basically what I'm trying to say is there's a nice anticyclonic flow. The storm is ventilating very well. It's kind of almost creating its own short-term environment to develop in the Gulf of Mexico before it interacts with some dry air and shear on the north and northwest side of the storm up here. So this is where our system is, somewhere in here. So the environmental factors in place, the factors in place for development, this is a big time anticyclonic flow right here, in place in the short term, basically in the next 24 to 48 hours, definitely promote a environment that supports some strengthening of this system for sure. One thing I worry about here is, like I said, you can't trust the Gulf of Mexico, and this is why. Because look at this area of very unbothered warm sea surface temperatures. This is temperatures close to the upper 80s, very warm sea surface temperatures. You got to watch out for that. You check out this big time moisture plume. This is a reason why I think most of the moisture will be on the eastern side of the storm. There's a lot of dry air on top. That is going to kill a lot of the moisture on the more north and northwest side of the storm. So if this storm can stay more out east and more into the Gulf of Mexico, then maybe y'all won't get quite as much torrential downpours and rain for the coastal areas of Texas. There's still an outside chance that this could develop into an all-out hurricane. You cannot keep that chance completely out. You just can't. You look at Mindy, what just happened with Mindy. If Mindy would have had another 12 hours underwater, Mindy could have became a hurricane. I mean, it was getting its act together quick. So there's nothing that tells me here that something like this can't happen with Nicholas. So you got to watch out. Look at the GEFS ensembles. There's a solid signal right here that really shows a tropical system developing. There's a lot of members here showing up, so you got to watch out for that moving forward here. And then they eventually move a little bit northeast. Moving forward, if we look right here, we look at the potential rainfall totals off the GEFS, moving all the way to about, I would say, midweek this week. Look at all the rain showing up here from the GEFS ensembles. This is rain pushing 3 to 4 to 5 inches along almost the immediate coastal areas of Texas all the way into Louisiana. It's a lot of rain potential here between now and the next few days. So that's what we definitely have to watch out for, is the big time flooding rains, that's for sure. So going forward here, we're going to flip over and we're going to talk about this spin up right here. You see this spin here? This is an upper level low. This is going to have the chance to keep moving northwest and potentially develop as it keeps moving here, but it's going to be going very slow. There's some very, very slow steering currents in place. They are not going to promote very fast movement of this, and that's because there's going to be some weak ridging. There's not a lot of solid ridging. There's not really a trough in place, so it's going to just kind of meander northwest very, very slowly. But in time, you look at this and you're saying, well, dang, this isn't that far away from the southeast right now. Well, technically it's not, but it's just going to be moving so slow. It's going to have some time here in the next several days. We have to watch this. And moving forward here, you look at the the operational GFS run. And you see this as we're getting into Thursday afternoon. We're a little bit further ahead in time here. This pops off an L, develops a low pressure, and it keeps it off the coast of the southeast and mid-Atlantic, and then it moves it into the northeast. This would not be a good scenario for the northeast, I'm telling you guys. So we got to watch out for that, because if this was to occur, then you could have a lot of flooding rains for areas of the northeast that just got pounded by Henri. So that's something we need to pay attention to. The northeast does not need any more heavy rainmakers, that's for sure. So we watch out for that scenario. If we looked at the GFS last night, I keep wanting to say GEFS, the ensembles, but the GFS last night, this actually had a full-blown hurricane moving into North Carolina. So I think guidance has actually ticked a little bit further east, which would be good news for the southeast. That means we really wouldn't have anything. But the reason this thing is moving so slow, there's not really any steering currents in place. It's really promoting any kind of fast movement. You do have a little bit of weak ridging to its east, but there's nothing really pushing it. There's no trough coming. A ridge builds over the eastern U.S. late this week. And so any fall weather fans, that's what kind of is unfortunate. It looks like the ridge begins to build, and I don't actually see another cold front in place for a while for the eastern U.S., but looking forward here, you look at the European. The European shows something very similar to the GFS. Takes that plume of tropical moisture and actually has it even more east and never really does anything with the East Coast. So this might be a non-event, but there's been some guidance, enough for the National Hurricane Center to dub it to 20% to develop. Now we look at long range here. The GFS has kind of went away. It was showing a little bit of something in the long range out here, but it's very confused. There is definitely, basically all together, the models are very confused on what's going on. The only thing they're kind of beginning to agree on is the fact here that in the short term, we're probably going to have Tropical Storm Nicholas that forms into the western Gulf of Mexico. As far as this upper level low potential right here, a lot of disagreements. As far as this area out here that has some long-term development potential, a lot of question marks here too. But, it pops up this L right here, but there's just not a lot going on the GFS here in the next 10 to 12 days. You look at the European model now. The European model still shows the long tracking hurricane it's been showing for the last 2 days. And we're actually starting to get to the range where this gets all the way into the kind of the northwest Atlantic here. But you notice there's kind of a lack of ridging in place. which means it promotes more of an out to sea turn right here. There's a little bit of ridging right here, but there's nothing really in here. So it's going to try to slide in this avenue here and go out to sea. But this is 10 days out, so it's really hard to know. I've definitely did some research here, and the slower this system develops, I think, and gets going, I think the higher chance it's going to go out to sea. If it develops a little bit quicker and speeds on here, out here, I think there's going to be more ridging in place, and it could potentially down the road impact maybe somewhere along the eastern U.S. We just don't know that yet. It's a lot to figure out. But I tell you what, the European ensembles are still showing a strong signal right here of a long-lived tropical system. But it does look like at the end, at day 10, it's starting to gain some latitude here, some more northerly latitude. See that strong signal of what will likely be Nicholas right here in the Texas area in the Western Gulf. You also look at the GEFS ensembles here. And there's that signal right here. The GFS ensembles is actually much more bullish and supportive of a tropical system than its actual operational run. So that is actually a solid signal for the GEFS ensemble. So I'm very curious if the operational run will respond to this overnight into tomorrow morning. But that is a kind of a scary sight right there. But you notice towards the end it starts to move out to sea. So a lot of things to watch. We're going to get impacted by another tropical system here in the short term, that's for sure. Watching another system off the coast of the southeast this weekend, and then maybe a long tracking system here in the future. I'll keep y'all updated. Thank y'all for the support. I got to go. Y'all have a blessed night, and thank y'all for everything.